Hello and welcome to this exploring session. Merry post-Christmas, everyone! As this is about when this episode should be going out across different formats in the future. We're recording this in the past, when life was worse and better at the same time. Today we're doing a nice, cheerful East Anglian play of the killing of the children. Yes, Candlemas Day and the killing of the children of Israel. It's from a manuscript written out in around 1512, though we don't have precise dating when the play may have come into existence. Somewhere around 1480 is a sort of roundabout guess, question mark, who knows. So it's late 15th century, early 16th, and it is exists in isolation of other works within this. There are lots of little bits of evidence about how this play was staged or what convention of staging it falls into, which we will sort of pick up as we go along. The various excited people who are here to do another cheerful, happy story about killing children is reading today. Watkin and Anna is.
Hi, I'm Eric, and I'm all about. I'm not going to finish that sentence. It doesn't seem appropriate. Yeah.
Very wise, very wise. Moving on, reading Fourth Mother and Joseph today is...
Liza Graham, actor, singer, and Renaissance text coach in London.
Reading Third Soldier, Third Mother and Simeon today is...
Hi, I'm Alan Scott, based in Suffolk.
Reading Fourth Soldier, Mary and First Mother today is...
Alexandra, and if this is as early a play as you said at the beginning, this might be the earliest I've done.
Yay! Reading Herod, Happy Herod, and Second Mother today is...
Me.
Yes.
Sarah Blake. I'm an actor, writer, and director living in Germany. And I'm totally on the ball.
Absolutely, absolutely. Reading Poet and First Soldier today is...
Hello, my name is Lynn. I'm a writing teacher. I live in the northwestern United States.
And reading Second Soldier, Angel and a Random Virgin is...
Hello, I'm Helen Good, and I'm in Hull, which is not a good place to be at the moment.
And I am your host, Robert Crighton. I'll be reading what few stage directions there are. There aren't a lot, and guiding us through some of the interesting textual qualities that exist in this particular text. There are some interesting contradictions that exist within the manuscript as it comes to us. It opens with something that's designed primarily to wake Lynn up. Lynn is starting an early morning session here with a massive chunk of text to enjoy. So over to Lynn to be the poet who opens this particular text.
This solemn feast to be had in remembrance of Blessed Saint Anne, mother to Our Lady, whose right descent was from King's alliance of David and Solomon, witnesseth this the story. Her blessed daughter, that called is Mary, by God's provision and husband should have, called Joseph, of nature old and dry, and she mother unto Christ, that all the world shall save. This glorious maiden, daughter unto Anna, in whose worship this feast we honor, and by resemblance likened unto manna, which is in taste celestial in savor, and of Jericho, the sweet rose flower, gold ebrizon called in picture, chose for to hear mankind's savor, with a prerogative above each creature. Those great things remembered after our intent is for to worship Our Lady and Saint Anne. We becomen as servants diligent, our process to show you as we can. Wherefore of benevolence we pray every man to have us excused that we no better do, another time to amend if we can, and by grace of God, if our cunning be thereto. The last year we showed you in this place how the shepherds of Christ's birth made ledification, and 3 kings that came from their counties and 3 kings that come fro their counties be grace to worship Jesu with entire devotion. And now we purpose with whole affection to proceed in our matter as we can, to show you of Our Lady's purification that she made in the temple, as the usage was then. And after that shall Herod have tidings how 3 kings be gone home another way, that were with Jesu, and made their offerings, and promised King Herod without delay to come again by him. That this is no nay. And when he wist that they were gone, like as a woodman he began to fray, and commanded his knights for to go anon into Israel, to each every town and city, for all the children that they could there find of 2 years' age and within, sparing neither bond nor free, but slay them all, either foe or friend. Thus he commanded in his furious wind, that though Jesu should have thought that Jesu should have been one, and yet he failed of his froward mind, for by God's purveyance our Lord was into Egypt gone. Friends, this process we purpose to play as we can before you all here in your presence, to honor our God, Our Lady, and St. Anne, beseeching you to give us peaceable audience. And ye minstrels, doth your diligence, and ye virgins show some sport and pleasure, these people to solace and to do God reverence, as ye be appointed, doth your busy cure.
And we'll just pause there at the end of that. I've got a stage direction et tripident, which I actually don't have a gloss for. Anyone want to throw anything in there in a moment, please do. So it's basically telling us what's going to come next. It's giving us a sense of context. It's telling everyone to give us peaceable audience. Don't be annoying, audience members, please don't. Minstrels, do your job well. Ye virgins, show some sport and pleasure. That's an interesting one. And everyone do God good reverence. That would be a good thing. Okay, thoughts from the room about that, just as a general prologue.
So when this says last year we did this we showed the shepherds, does that mean basically not a year ago, but before the turn of the year?
Well, it could be one or the other. It could be that this is a very, very, very long format cycle play, or it could be every few months, or month or so they do something, or as a sequence. There is additional data later on, so we may get to that when we get to it. I'll go to Helen, then Alan.
The year didn't begin till Lady Day. The year doesn't begin on the 1st of January, unfortunately.
Yes.
It's a real pain.
It's really annoying, isn't it?
Yeah.
I generally ignore that when it comes to dating things, because, which is wrong, I know, but I just, life's too short. Alan?
Same point, effectively, although there's an interesting byline to it, which is when they changed the calendar, some bright spark decided the tax year should be lengthened, which is why we've got this absurdity of the 5th of April for the end of the tax year. Because that is the 23rd of March, plus the days that were excised from the calendar.
Give us back our days, they cried.
Oh, yes, give us back our 11 days.
Yeah, people thought their lives had been shortened.
Yep.
Yes, yes, we can go back to those 11 days another time. It's outside our period, so it's a shame. But it is actually genuinely a fascinating little story. It does seem to be that this is not a cycle as we might think of this in a big city like York or something, that everything's crammed into a day or a few days. This is a long, slow burning cycle, and that this local parish might be producing something on a semi-regular basis, but they're still going vaguely chronologically through the story. But how precisely that works, there might be more information later. There might not. Who knows? Other thoughts before we go into the action? No? Everyone just wants to get round to some Heroding action. I can tell Sarah's raring to go. I'm going to pause before we get to the italics, by the way, people. So it's not going to be long. We're going to get a bit of Herod. Herodiness will now occur. There will be a brief pause mid-Herodiness. Go, Herod.
Above all kings under the clouds crystal, royally I reign in wealth, without woe. Of pleasant prosperity I lack none at all. Fortune, I find that she is not my foe. I am King Herod. I will it be known so, most strong and mighty in field for to fight, and to vanquish my enemies that against me do. I am most bedread with my brond bright. My great gods I glorify with gladness, and to honour them I kneel upon my knee, for they have set me in solace from all sadness, that no conqueror nor knight is compared to me. All those that rebel against me, their bane I will be. Or grudge against my gods on hill or heath, all such rebellers I shall make for to flee, and with hard punishments put them to death. What earthly wretches with pomp and pride do against my laws or withstand mine intent, they shall suffer woe and pain through back and side with a very mischance. Their flesh shall be all to rent. And all my foes shall have such commandment that they shall be glad to do my bidding, aye, or else they shall be in woe and mischief permanent, that they shall fear me night and day.
Okay, here we're going to briefly pause because the text following has been cancelled in the manuscript. So we're going to be reading something that may come from an earlier version of the play, but which does not necessarily match with later events that we're about to come to. So just to clarify, the stuff in italics are cancelled in the original manuscript as it comes. Lynn?
I don't actually know what you mean by cancelled. It's written and then it's struck through, or
that seems to be the way it is there. Yes.
Okay.
So there is some confusion as to precisely which version of the text this represents. Herod in this particular section, which say is following lines are cancelled, continues speaking. We will resume to another version of the text in a moment.
My messenger, at my commandment, come hither to me, and take heed of what I shall say. I shall to thee say. I charge thee, look about through all my country to espy if any rebels do against our lay. And if any such come in thy way, bring them into our high presence, and we shall see them corrected ere they go hence.
My lord, your commandment I have fulfilled, you even to the uttermost of my poor power. And I would show you more, so you would be contented, but I dare not lest ye would take it in anger. For if it liked you not, I am sure my death were near. And therefore, my lord, I will hold my peace.
I warn thee, thou traitor, that thou not cease to show everything thou knowest against our reverence.
My lord, if you have it in your remembrance, there were 3 stranger kings that lay in your presence. They went to Bethlehem to offer with due observance, and promised to come again by you without variance. But by these bones 10, they be to you untrue. For homeward another way they do so.
Now, by my great gods that be so full of might, I will be avenged upon Israel, if thy tale be true.
That it is, my lord, my truth I you plight. For ye found me never false in me. Yeah. For you found me never false in ye me knew.
And we'll just pause there. So that's the end of the cancelled passage, which seems to be very much paranoia central here. Herod just going, messenger. Any rebels out there? Anyone saying bad things about me? Have you found anyone? Because he's done the opening address uncancelled is all how boastful he is, how strong and wonderful he is, and then paranoia immediately following. That, and also call back plot-wise to those three kings who came through earlier. Yeah. Herod, how are you finding this journey?
Well, he's hilarious, isn't he? He likes his alliteration. My goodness, I got halfway through that speech and thought, oh, I need to get my teeth in for this, because it's all go, isn't it? It's great. My great gods, I glorify with gladness, and set me in solace from all sadness. Yeah. And I mean, I suppose it just underscores the fact that he's being so boastful. You know, it's kind of, he's wanting to be impressive. I'm not entirely sure who he's trying to be impressive to, other than the audience, obviously. But yeah. And then it's interesting the way it's that section though with the messenger. Yeah, he is being paranoid, but I don't know, it's weird. Maybe it's just the way I read it, but it was almost like, oh, just look through my country and see if there are any rebels, and if there are any, bring them here so I can correct them. It's kind of almost more like, oh, just go and find some people that I can torment for a bit.
Yeah.
Because it's fun.
Yeah. Lynn.
Just in Ray, the alliteration, might be good to mention here that that alliteration was a formal principle, an organizing principle of Old English verse before the Norman conquest, and brought rhyme in as an organizing principle for Middle English verse. So what may be happening here is the alliteration is kind of archaizing. It makes that in the listener's mind seem sort of oldie-fashionedy or classic-y or something like that. That it gives you a feeling of the past, because that's an alliteration is a principle from Old English verse.
Liza.
Yes, that's a really good point. And also, we do have alliteration carrying over into some Middle English verse. We've got the Gawain and the Green Knight stanza, which is alliterative and only rhymes for the last four lines. And a lot of the mystery plays use a similar stanza. The Wakefield Master uses that, not quite the Gawain stanza, but almost like it. So alliteration, yeah, you're right that it harkens back to the very earliest English or verse in a language that can be called English. Yeah.
Any additional thoughts at this time? You know, we're barely into this first scene yet. I say we're barely into it. We'll probably be out the other side in a second. Okay, so we had in the opening Herod making his boast. Then we have him calling on the messenger to find some rebels. Now we return to the uncancelled part of the manuscript, and we continue with some Herod. So it's a question, interestingly, how well does that match up with the bit before the cancelled passage, and how well does it match up with the cancelled passage, as it were? Not that I wish to cancel anyone's passages.
I do perceive, though I be here in my chief city called Jerusalem, my rich royal town, I am falsely deceived by strange kings three. Therefore, my knight, I warn you without delation that you make search throughout all my region. Without any tarrying, my will may be seen, and slay all those children without exception of 2 years of age that within Israeli been. For within myself thus I have concluded, for to avoid away all interruption. Sithen these three kings have me thus falsely deluded, as in manner by froward collusion, and again resorted home and into their region. But yet, maugre their hearts, I shall avenged be, both in Bethlehem and in provinces, every one. Slay all the children to keep my liberty.
My lord, ye may be sure that I shall not spare for to fulfill your noble commandment, with sharp sword to pierce them all bare, in all countries that be to you adjacent.
And for your sake to observe your commandment.
Not one of them all our hands shall astert.
for we will cruelly execute your judgment with sword and spear to pierce them through the heart.
I thank you, my knights. But look ye make no tarrying. Do arm yourself in steel shining bright, and conceive in your minds that I am your king, giving you charge that with all your might, in conservation of my title of right, that ye go and look for mine advantage, and slay all the children that come in your sight, which been within 2 year of age. Now beware that my bidding ye truly obey, for none but I shall reign with equity. Make all the children on your swords to die. I charge you, spare not one for mercy, nor pity. Am not I lord and king of the country? The crown of all Jerusalem longeth to me of right. Whosoever say nay, of high or low degree, charge you, slay all such that come in your sight.
My lord, be ye sure, according to your will, like as ye charge us, be straight commandment. All the children of Israeli doubtless we shall kill within 2 years of age. This is our intent.
My lord, of all Jewry, we hold you for chief regent, by title of inheritance, as your ancestors beforn. He that saith the contrary, by Mahound he shall be shent, and curse the time that ever he was born.
I thank you, my knights, with whole affection, and when ye come again, I shall you avance. Therefore quite you well in field and town, and all of those fondlings make a deliverance.
So here the knights shall depart from Herod to Israel, and Watkin shall abide. But before we go on to Watkin, who's still on stage, so if we cancel Watkin's opening gambit, we don't get an introduction to Watkin. He's just sort of lingering in the background. If we keep it, then we get a sense of Watkin's place as messenger is introduced earlier. So there's an interesting question about who and what Watkin is, depending on what the different versions of the text suggest. How are we finding Herod's mission and the soldiers there? Liza put a nice comment in the chat there about Herod's instructions. The family-friendly version is if you want to go, Liza.
Oh, I just sort of figured Herod a bit like RuPaul, and the soldiers having to slay for their lives, and Herod wearing a giant blonde wig, going, "Don't F this up."
Yeah, I like that. I say I like that. It's it's nicely twisted. I like that. Other thoughts about the scene?
Yes, you don't get any of the soldiers even dubious about their mission.
Mm.
I mean, with 4 soldiers, you might expect one of them to be saying, "Are we sure about this?" and all the others say yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, they all seem very much. Well, I suppose if you've survived this long in Herod's court, you presumably they've learnt the lesson of other plays later on in dramatic history, that you don't say anything against what the Herod figure says. Always agree with Herod. It's a good survival strategy at court. Alan, then Alexandra.
I'm just wondering, I think we've discussed before that the end town sequence seems more to have been designed for reading rather than performance. And in some ways, the italicized bit that we talked about just now, I think works in performance, but maybe wouldn't work if you were merely reading the piece.
Well, I mean, End Town was adjusted to, in sense of that manuscript was adjusted for reading. I don't know that this text was. This was very much a collection of plays. It's from the Digby manuscript, which is a selection of East Anglian dramas that survived from the late Middle Ages. So I don't know if we can make that kind of assumption about it at all. I think it's simply a recording of plays rather than it's not been edited with any sense of. Sense that might be a performative edit that they decided not to use that bit. in actual performance. Or not. Who knows? Alexandra.
Wonder about the performance history of this, and the reason for that is the situation with the soldiers, and we have other characters who are in a similar situation later on, where they appear only to say, you know, a line or two, and they all say the same thing, so you don't need 5 people to say, you know, that bit. Feels to me like either something along the lines of you know, thank you for sponsoring this production, here you get to be in it, stand there, say a line, and then you get to walk off along with the Herod and never come back. That's part of your Patreon perk. And or, you know, the alternative, which is the kind of the school play version of this, where you have to include all the children. So some of them get to play Herod and spend the entire play talking, and others get to play not a tree, but a spear carrier. Okay, fine, we'll give them a line.
Yeah, there does seem to be a progression. The first soldier gets quite a lot. The second soldier gets a little bit in terms of overall structuring, and then the third and fourth. And it's interesting. Other Herod plays that we've done have had a sort of gravitating. The number of soldiers varies. The number of mothers vary. So we've had fewer. We've had it only 2. Or, you know, there might be 4 on stage, but only 2 of them talk. So yeah, I think there is a really interesting question there about how many good players does the room have, as it were. Eric.
I was thinking when the others were reading it, I was thinking that this sounds a lot like it's the eternal question of like why follow these horrible people into battle or into, like, you know, just follow their instructions. Like, why follow, I don't know, Hitler or whatever you want to, like, as a modern equivalent. Like, but then obviously he kind of rewards them well with whole affection, and he shall make them advance. Yeah.
That's why you end up with yes men in court circles, is because they get rewarded, whereas people who say no don't. I'm not suggesting that this is in any way an analog to any political times that we're living in today. I'm not suggesting that for a second. But you know, there's rewards aplenty for people who say yes. 10, 12 billion, I believe. Anyway, we will. That's going to be out of date by the time this goes out. So, let's. Any additional thoughts before we move on? No, so the soldiers have all rattled off to Israel, and Watkin, the messenger, who you may or may not have met earlier, but who's been standing in the background, decides to say something to Herod, and now it gets interesting.
Now, my lord, I beseech you to hear my dalliance. I would ask you a boon if I durst aright, but I were loath he should take any displeasance. Now, for Mahound's sake, make me a knight. For the one thing I promise you, I will manly fight, and for to avenge your quarrel I dare undertake. Though I say it myself, I'm a man of might, and dare live and die in this quarrel for your sake. And for when I come among them for fear, they shall quake, and though they charm and cry, I care not a mite, but with my sharp sword their ribs I shall shake, even through the guts, for anger and despite.
By my troth, Watkin, wouldst thou be made a knight? Thou hast been my servant and messenger many a day, but thou were never proved in battle nor in fight, and therefore to advance thee so suddenly, may. But one thing to thee I shall say, because I find thee true in thine intent. Forth with my knights thou shalt take the way, and quite thee well, and thou shalt it not repent.
Now, largest, my lord, I am right well paid. If I do not well, I lay my head upon a stock. I shall go show your knights how ye have said, and arm myself manly, and go forth on the flock. And if I find a young child, I shall chop it on the block. Though the mother be angry, the child shall be slain. But yet I dread no thing more than a woman with a rock. For if I see any such, by my faith I come again.
What? Shall a woman with a rock drive thee away? Fie on thee, traitor! Now I tremble for teen, I have trusted thee long and many a day. A bold man and an hardy, I went thou hadst been.
So am I, my lord, and that shall be seen that I am a bold man and best dare abide. And there come 100 women, I will not flee, but from tomorrow night till night with them I dare chide. And therefore, my lord, you may trust unto me for all the children of Israel, your knights, and I shall kill. I will not spare one, but dead they shall be, if the father and mother will let me have my will.
Thou Lurden, take heed what I say thee, Till, and hie thee to my knights as fast as thou can. Say, I warn them in any wise, their blood that they spill about in every country, and let for no man.
Nay, nay, my lord, we will let for no man, though there come 100 or 1,000 on the rout. For your knights and I will kill them all, if we can. But Watkin is but for the wives, that is all my doubt. And if I see any walking about, I will take good heed till she be gone. And as soon as I espy that she is out, by my faith into the house I will go anon. And this I promise you that I shall never sleep, but evermore wait to find the children alone. And if the mother come in under the bench, I will creep and lie still there till she be gone. Then manly I shall come out and her children swoon, and when I have done, I shall run fast away. If she found her child dead and took me there alone, by my faith, I am sure we should make a fray.
Nay, harlot, abide still with my knights, I warn thee, till the children be slain, all the whole rout. And when thou comest home again, I shall advance thee, if thou quite thee like a man while thou art out. And if thou play the coward, I put thee out of doubt. Of me thou shalt neither have fee nor advantage. Therefore I charge you, the country be well sought, and when thou comest home, shalt have thy wage.
Yes, sire, by my troth ye shall well know while I am out how I shall acquite me. For I purpose to spare neither high nor low, if there be no man will smite me. The most I fear the wives will beat me. Yet shall I take a good heart to me, and look well about, and look that your knights be not far from me. For if I be alone, I may soon get a clout.
I say, hie thee hence that thou were gone. And unto my knights, look ye take the way, and say, I charge them that my commandment be done in all haste possible, without more delay. And if there be any that will say you nay, read him of his life out of hand anon. And if thou quite the well unto my pay, I shall make thee a knight adventurous when thou comest home.
And exit Herod and, to a degree, Watkin as the scene changes. So this is the really weird, different thing about this play, is that we have Watkin. We've had servants to Herod figures in other plays, but what's interesting about Watkin is Watkin wants to change roles in life. It's like, I've been a courtier all my life, and I want to be a soldier and do manly things like kill children. And he goes through all these weird fantasies and ways about how he's going to do things. And it's like, I'll leave the other soldiers and I'll go in and I'll manly hide until the women are gone, and then I'll manly kill the children. And Herod's going, no, just stick with the men, because stick together and it will be fine. And he just keeps going, and he keeps not going. And that question of how do we play Watkin is a really interesting one. I've got lots of thoughts in advance about how Watkin should be played, but yeah, the question of a Herod play where there seems to be a quite distinctly or potentially comic thrust to it, which we do not seem to have in other iterations. So it's a really interesting text. I'm absolutely fascinated by this play. For all its not very happiness that's coming up, it's got really other interesting things. Liza, then Sarah.
So, my thought on reading this is that Watkin is a boy actor. I think a boy rather than an adult clown. Or, is anything known about the performance context of this play? Is it a guild play, or?
No idea.
Yeah, I think Watkin's emphasis on manliness sort of suggests that he's a boy actor, and the character wants to be a man. And a woman with a rock is a distaff, right? It's not just like a stone. It's a distaff that you use to wind the yarn that you've spun. So it's a sort of hefty stick about yay long, and you can hit people with it if you don't mind getting blood on your yarn.
Which I suspect that's not going to be a disincentive for what's going to come up. Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, Herod does talk about Watkin as being with him for many years, but I don't think that's a barrier at all. I mean, I have to say, in my mind, I just see Watkin as the work experience boy. It's like, yeah, let me play with the big boys and do big manly things, and it's like, yeah, okay, don't get beaten. Go, Sarah.
Yeah, I found this fascinating because it's not just how you play Watkin, it's how you play Herod. Because I didn't know what was coming, and I kicked him off like, oh, I am mighty and I am evil. And I'm reveling in my evil. And then all of a sudden he turns into the straight man for Watkin. And it's really, really hard to maintain that level of kind of menace and evil when you're playing the straight man to this really funny clown. And so then when he goes back to being kind of evil at the end there, and he's like, oh, and make sure that that they all die. It's I was kind of almost laughing because it's like I can't take him seriously, and I'm playing him.
It's sort of Mannering and Pike, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because he keeps going, no, Lalverden, no, just stick with the men. Nay, Harlot, no, just go with the men. You said you wanted to go. I've said yes. But it's interesting. His first speech after Watkin sort of speaks to him, Herod it's like an awkward performance review where someone says, I'd like a promotion, please, and he sort of just goes, will you be my servant, and therefore to advance thee so suddenly, I may, I can't do it. But go on, look, trial period, go with the knights, and maybe I'll knight you, because of course, obviously, he wants to become a knight. He wants to, become, upwardly mobile on some level. So there's something really, really weird and fascinating about this whole play. Eric, and then possibly Lynn. I think Lynn was waving.
Yeah, I think Lynn was first.
Well, you're in the chair now, Erica. We'll come to Lynn in a second.
I found it interesting that basically Watkin, because I was reading him and obviously I didn't know what was coming either. But it's like, if you read it straight, it's just this thing where it's like, yes, I will kill them, and then but then it all flips on those like conditionals where it goes, if I do not well, lay my head on a stock. But then if I see a woman, I'll just hide, and if I see this, and it's like, okay. It's very hard to keep a straight face while doing that. I mean, although he describes all these and if 100 women come out, I won't run, and it's like, okay.
Yeah, I will not spare one, but dead they shall be, if the father and mother will let me have my will.
Yeah, it's like, why would you need permission?
Lynn.
Yeah, just really quickly in regard to the question of boy actor or adult actor, is it not true that at least later in the period, a company's clown was often physically small? That was like something the culture considered funny. So so he might be chronologically an adult, but look boyish or childlike because he's a small person.
Maybe not literally, but in terms of what all clowns basically do is that they make themselves as innocuous as possible. The thing about what clowns do is basically say, love me, love me, love me, love me, love me, love me. I'm doing horrible things, but still love me, all the time. And there is a certain, I mean, that's sort of an element of camp, as well as a certain lightness of touch. So there is that element within clown all the time. We are hunting a short clown in later 100 years from now. We are on the hunt for a specific, relatively short clown of which we have not as of yet firmly attached a thing to. But we don't think Tarleton was. We think Tarleton was actually quite burly. And other clowns' heights are debatable. Eric.
I was just gonna say that it would be sort of comic if you did like a gender swapped version of this, where like you have Watkin as like female or just like not male, not explicitly male anyway, which would just be like, I'm going to be a man and the most I fear is to come among women. It's like that would not make any sense at all, which would sort of just underline his comic point, I think.
Other thoughts from the room? No, okay, so we sort of now have a coda to this which might still be sort of semi in the same place, in the sense that this could be Watkin catching up with the soldiers who've moved away. We don't have no idea how this would have been originally staged, except for clues that we may find in the text. And as of yet, everything's still been pretty much in the same scene. So Watkin chasing after the knights. Continue.
If Sir Knights, I must go forth with you, thus my lord command me for to do. And if quite me well while I am among you, I shall be made a knight of ventures when I come home. For one thing I promise you, I will fight anon, if my heart fail not when I shall begin. The most I fear is to come among women, for they fight like devils with their rocks when they spin.
Watkin, I love thee, for thou art ever a man. If thou quit thee well in this great viage, I shall speak to my lord for thee that I can, that thou shalt no more be neither groom nor page.
I will speak for thee that thou shalt have better wage, if thou quit thee manly among the wives. For they be as fierce as a lion in a cage, when they are broken out to reave men of their lives.
And here the knights and Watkin walk about the place till Mary and Joseph be conveyed into Egypt, which is the scene we'll come to just in a moment. Yet neither groom nor page does suggest that perhaps we are looking at a younger individual, that he's been at court for a while, but still as in a younger subordinate position, perhaps. What's the attitude of these two soldiers to Watkin's appearance of, hello, I'm coming to join you?
Stupid boy.
Are both the soldiers having the same opinion? What are the soldiers' thoughts here, the two knights?
Well, the first is quite supportive. The second is taking the extracting the Michael.
Yes.
Yes, that was my impression. Other thoughts on that?
I feel like I detect a hint of condescension when they say, thou art ever a man. I'm not sure we can take that at face value.
But it's encouraging.
Do you remember when I was such a callow youth? Oh, yeah, look at him.
I dare to
Oh, he's
dream.
going to get that crap beaten out of him, isn't he? Yeah. Do you think they're going to defend him?
Well, first soldier, I think, might. Actually, the second soldier might. He's just having fun.
Okay, let us go to this aside moment as we leap to the Holy Family. There's the appearance of an angel to Mary and Joseph. Remember, the knights and Watkin are walking about until till Mary and Joseph be conveyed into Egypt. So how that works, answers on a postcard. Go, angel.
Oh, Joseph, rise up, and look thou tarry naught. Take Mary with thee, and into Egypt flee. For Jesu thy son pursued is and sought by King Herod, the which of great iniquity commanded hath through Bethlehem city in his cruel and furious rage, to slay all the children that be in that country, that may be found within 2 years of age. There shall he show in that region divers miracles of his high regality. In all their temples and the monuments shall fall down, to show a token towards the party. This child hath lordship, as prophets do specify, and at his coming, through his mighty hand, in despite of all idolatry, everyone shall fall when he cometh into the land.
O good Lord, of thy gracious ordinance, like as thou list for our journey provide, in this voyage with humble attendance, as God disposeth, and list to be our guide. Therefore upon them both meekly I shall abide, praying to that Lord to think upon us three, us to preserve whether we go or ride toward Egypt from all adversity.
Now, husband, in all haste, I pray you go we hence, for dread of Herod, that cruel knight. Gentle spouse, now do your diligence, and bring your ass, I pray you, anon right. and from hence let us pass with all our might, that we may go from Herod, that cursed wight, which will us devour if that we abide.
Mary, you to do pleasance without any let, I shall bring forth your ass without more delay. Full soon, Mary, thereon ye shall be set, and this little child that in your womb lay. Take him in your arms, Mary, I you pray, and of your sweet milk let him suck enow. Maugre Herod's and his great fray, and as your spouse, Mary, I shall go with you. This fardel of gear I lay up on my back. Now I'm ready to go from this country. All my small instruments is put in my pack. Now go we hence, Mary, it will no better be. For dread of Herod's apace, I will hie me. Lo, now is our gear trussed, both more and less. Mary, for to please you, with all humility, I shall go before and lead forth your ass.
Yes, a few unfortunate lines there. Okay, I think we should all be very grown up now, and just ignore the bringing your ass is a very important thing when you have livestock with you. Is an important asset, and it's obviously that's Joseph's job, is to look after Mary's ass.
Well, to coin a phrase, whose ass is it anyway? Mary says it's Joseph's ass, or maybe he's the kind of husband where she has to remind him to bring his own ass.
So yes, and breathe, everyone. So that's the end of that particular sequence. When they will exit in a moment. Apart from that unfortunate issue, which in performance I think we would have to adjust. I think we have to say that it would be very, very difficult to perform that.
Just a mere definite article. How about the ass?
Might work. I think that's one to just keep tweaking in rehearsals until people have stopped sniggering at the back. Because I just feel that one going horribly wrong.
You have met actors before, right?
Yes, I have.
We will never stop sniggering at the back.
Yes. Alexandra.
I put this in the chat earlier, and now I'm convinced. Somewhere on reading the poster, I missed the bit where this was billed as a comedy. It feels as though there are moments like that, or like we were looking earlier at the soldiers making fun of Watkin, and I can't remember what it was earlier than that. It feels as though this is definitely this could very well be intentional comedy, potentially to offset the horribleness, intentionally and in a serious way.
I think absolutely in the sense of the rest of the text is that there are plays, and there's sort of evidence in some of these plays that people are a bit uncomfortable about some of the implications of some of these biblical stories. We've been talking with N Town about how a lot of that is constructed to definitely make absolutely clear how Mary's virginity is absolutely secure. And that only comes about because someone has sort of gone, she probably doesn't have sex with Joseph at some point, and therefore that's a legitimate concern. Same with the Abraham plays. There's sometimes some really interesting sort of additional material going in with there, where people are sort of going, isn't the whole thing about traumatizing your son really dodgy? And so people are actually there are deliberate bits where someone comes on and says, no, think about this hard, because this is about this. And about obedience to God, etc. Don't follow this with your emotions. Follow this with think about what this is teaching you. So maybe there's an element that this particular play is deliberately trying to say, actually no. Sometimes these plays are just too horrible and too traumatic to be watching, and maybe we need something to break through it. I don't know if the ass is intending to do that as a thing there. So maybe we could lean into it for our putative production, because if we're riding comedy, let's ride that ass for as long as we can. Eric.
I was just gonna say maybe like the whole reference to like your ass, or like sort of it's like who's going to ride the animal, because it seems to be that thing of, because Mary says there obviously is only one animal in the room, so it's that like this sort of how do you call it, back and forth, and yeah, I don't know. Maybe it's our ass, and it became sort of your over time. And
There does seem some interesting ass management going on here, and I think we can add this to our horse list. In the sense of there is a genuine livestock involved here. I mean, this is presumably an outdoor performance. We can't be certain about that, but that seems plausible because of the way it's locating space. So there might be slightly different performance spaces within the arena or space, whichever this is being performed in, and so that is a potential thing. So the potential use of a genuine ass is entirely possible. Helen?
20 years ago, this wouldn't have been a problem. It's only recently that ass has become a word that we use for arse.
Or it's migrated in terms of, the UK.
Yeah, I mean, we've taken on the American.
Our fault again, sorry.
Yeah.
No, you got ass is earlier probably because your language is more fundamental than ours.
Our language is quite fundamental, isn't it?
Can we stop talking about fundaments here and start talking about animals and livestock and animal husbandry and just general husbandry in the sense of Joseph there.
Look, your marital affairs are your own business.
Okay, do we have anything to add here, or should we go on? I think we're done. Okay, done to turn. Okay, so here, Mary and Joseph shall go out of the place, thank goodness, and the gods shall fall. Interesting. So the angel presumably disappears. I'm assuming what that means. And then shall come in the women of Israel with young children in their arms, and then the knights shall go to them. So we have the entrance of the women, and then the entrance of the soldiers, and the soldiers are going to be saying this to them. For the viewers at home, we don't quite have enough women and soldiers to make this scene work, so there's going to be some doubling, but hopefully nobody should clash directly with themselves, he said. Let's see how this runs.
Hark ye, wise, we become your households to visit, though ye be neither so wroth nor woed, with sharp swords that readily will bite all your children within 2 year age in our cruel mood. Throughout all Bethlehem to kill and shed their young blood, as we be bound by the commandment of the king, who that saith nay, we shall make a flood to run in the streets by their blood shedding.
Therefore unto us ye make a deliverance of your young children, and that anon, or else by Mahound we shall give you a mischance. Our sharp swords through your bodies shall gone.
therefore beware, for we will not leave one in all this country that shall us escape. I shall rather slay them everyone and make them to lie and move like an ape.
Fie on you, traitors of cruel tormentry, which with your swords of mortal violence
Our young children that can no succour but cry will slay and devour in their innocence.
Ye false traitors, unto God do ye do great offence, to slay and murder young children that in their cradle slumber?
But we women shall make against you resistance after our power your malice to encumber.
Peace, you foolish queens. Why should you defend against us armed men in this apparel? We be bold men, and the king did us send hither into this country to hold with you battle.
Fie upon thee, coward! Of thee I will not fail to dub thee knight with my rock round. Women be fierce when they list to assail such proud boys to cast to the ground.
Avaunt, ye scoutess! I defy you, everyone, for I will beat you all myself alone.
And there they kill the children.
Alas! Alas, good gossips, this is a sorrowful pain to see our dear children that be so young, with these caitives thus suddenly to be slain. A vengeance I ask on them for all this great wrong.
And a very mischief must come them among, whosoever they be come or gone, for they have killed my young son John.
Gossips, a shameful death I ask upon Herod our king, that thus rigorously our children hath slain.
I pray God bring him to an ill ending, and in hell pit ever to dwell in pain.
What ye harlots, I have espied certain that ye be traitors to my lord the king, and therefore I am sure ye shall have an ill ending.
If ye abide, Watkin, you and I shall game with my distaff that is so round.
And if I cease, then have I shame till thou be felled down to the ground.
And I may get thee within my bound. With this staff I shall make thee lame.
Yea, I come no more there, by Saint Amand, for if I do me thinketh, I shall be made tame.
Abide, Watkin, I shall make thee a knight.
Thou make me a knight? That were only new, but for shame, my troth I you plight. I should beat you back inside till it were blue. But by my God, my hound, that is so true, my heart begin to fail and waxeth faint. Or else by my hound's blood, ye should rue. But ye shall lose your goods as traitors attaint.
What, thou javel, canst not have do? Thou and thy company shall not depart till of our distaffs ye have taken part. Therefore lay on, gossips, with a merry heart, and let them not from us go.
And here they shall beat Watkin, and the knight shall come to rescue him, and then they go to Herod, and we'll just pause there. Yes, as Eric so helpfully put in the chat, I can't help but think Watkin is about to have his ass handed to him, as indeed he does. I mean, it's very interesting here. There's no stage direction stating it, but they kill the children, and presumably the soldiers all leave. The knights all leave, and Watkins decides, at this moment of high tension and grief among the women, to say something. It's very noticeable that the soldiers do not say anything at this point. It's like they've got half a mile down the road and gone, hang on, anyone check where Watkin is? Oh, God. And they all go running back for him. So, yes. It's interesting. We got shared lines from the mothers, which is a really nice little stylistic element. It's that sense of the first soldier does this long speech, second soldier does a reasonably long speech, and then Watkin sort of, again, steps in. Like, he's actually got a place there and makes his face known. And that's interesting. We haven't mentioned it already, partly because I forget to do this because we've done many episodes on medieval text, but we should always mention it each time. Yes, we have the use of Mahound, which this is a depiction of a. Oh God, get my head around this. So yeah, they're also pagans, as Herod says at the beginning, but they're all calling on Mahound, which is a sort of medieval version of Muhammad, because they don't really understand how all these things work and mix together. That does not mean that we are intending any kind of slur on this point. This is just how these texts tend to function. So, and anyone want to jump in on that? We also have one of the young sons actually gets a name, Little John. So, and I don't think we've got that anywhere else as well. So there's a really weird mix here, because it actually is quite harrowing. I mean, we don't know how long the actual. We just have 3 words for a stage direction here. Of they kill the boys. That's it. And then we get not a lot of dialogue, but enough. Thoughts on the room, Lynn?
Yeah, I just apropos of the Mahood thing. I mean, I realize a person who was literate enough to write a play in rhyme did not necessarily. I don't have our sense of religious history, but the Mahood, it just makes me cringe every time. Like, he's not even born for 500 years. But oh well.
Yes. Other thoughts about this particular scene, or additions to that? Helen?
It was amazing how much difference the naming of one of the babies made. I mean, it really, really did. For they have killed my young son John really changed the scene.
Yeah, and John being the common name that it was, so many people in the audience presumably would have had children named that.
The majority, probably.
Yes. Eric?
Yeah, it's weird how it goes from immediately they're sort of mourning and stuff, and then Watkin, of course, decides to step in it and sort of it just changes really, really quickly. Like nothing is it's very fluid. It's sort of it goes from a shameful death asked upon Harry King, and Watkin immediately goes, "You're all traitors," and then like he's like, "Okay, I have to get out of here because they're gonna beat me up," but obviously doesn't have the common sense to leave before that happens.
Yeah, he gets surrounded very, very quickly, and they've all got weapons ready. And yes, mothers, did you enjoy beating the crap out of Watkin?
Yeah.
Alexandra.
There's something very strange to the way this scene flows to me, where the women basically stand aside, kind of complaining, while their children get killed, and then go grab their stuffs and beat the last guy left. So I don't know if that's a textual thing, or that's something I've missed, or whether there's something in the connotations or in the performance that kind of would be brought out that I'm missing because of that.
I think there's an awful lot of stage business as to how this actually flows. It's a good question. I wonder whether they managed to extract the children from the mothers very, very quickly. The mothers come on with the children in their arms, but what happens after that, whether that, how quickly they're overwhelmed, it's a really good question, of which I do not know the answer.
If you're going to fight, you fight to save the living thing that you care about. You don't fight for revenge after you've watched it get killed. Is the logic.
Yeah, Sarah.
I think there's if you were going to go down that route and make this scene really dark, which I mean certainly the naming of the child does turn it. I mean, there's scope to actually, if these soldiers, I mean, only 4 soldiers are mentioned, but there could be more of them, and you could literally have a scene where they've got the mothers at sword point, swords up to their necks, and they're like taking literally grabbing their hands and taking the children, pulling the children out and holding them at sword point, and there's other soldiers actually physically holding them, and then they kill the children, and then they all leave. So it's like you can imagine that the mothers are physically restrained while it's happening, and then as soon as it's done, the soldiers exit, and it's only literally Watkin who stays behind, and then the scene then suddenly makes sense, because they've been held against their will. They've been forced to watch their children die. And then the minute the soldiers take off, they're left. And the first thing they do, of course, is go to their children. And then the second thing they do is look up, because there's this idiot who stayed behind, who's saying, "Oh, you're all traitors." And what's the first thing they're going to do? Grab whatever they've got to hand and go for him.
I mean, that it seems to me that they're overwhelmed before they can actually pick up weapons. I mean, otherwise the scene cannot function, I'd assume. Helen?
There's a Breigel painting of the Massacre of the Innocents. Actually, there are 2, but it's set in the Netherlands, and the soldiers who are doing the massacring, there are an awful lot of them, and they are all wearing Spanish armor. So, I mean, I think people would have expected a fair cohort, because otherwise, how can you take a woman's child and kill it unless you have overwhelming force? So I think Sarah's got it spot on.
Alexandra?
I also think at the time of this being written and performed, the considerations we are putting behind it were not considerations they were having. It's very possible that things were representative, and like the audience knows what to understand here, rather than it being striving for realism. But if you wanted to put it on and strive for realism, as Sarah said, yes, you could restrain people, but also you could have all of the dialogue happening while children are getting killed, so that what you've got is a wave of murder, with very quick dialogue occurring. So yeah, there are solutions. You're absolutely right. And just moving that direction of here they kill the children would probably solve a lot of that. But yes, it was a narrative quirk. That's very interesting.
Okay, we have just to change the mood a bit. Let's move a little further on. So Watkin having been saved, they'll journey to Herod, and they make their report. So first, second soldier, Watkin, and Herod.
Honorable Prince of great apparel, through Jerusalem and Judah, your will we have wrought, full surely harnessed in armor and of plate and mail, the children of Israel unto death we have brought.
Sir, to work your commandment we letted naught, in the streets of the children to make a flood. We spared neither for care nor thought, through Bethlehem to shed all the young blood.
In faith, my lord, all the children be dead, and all the men that out of the country be gone. There be but women, and they cry in every stead, of vengeance take King Herod, for he hath our children slewn, and bid a mischief take him both even and morn, for killing of their children. On you they cry out, and thus goeth your name all the country about.
Out! I am mad. My wits be near gone. I am woe for the wroking of this work wild, for as well I have slain my friends as my foe, wherefore I fear death hath me beguiled. Notwithstanding sin, they be all defiled, and on the young blood of Bethlehem wrought woe and rake. Yet I am in no certain of that young child. Now, for woe, oh, mine heart ginneth to quake, alas! I am so sorrowful and set in sadness, I chill and chiver for this horrible chance. I command you all, as ye will stand in my grace after this young king, to make good inquirance, and he that bringeth me tidings, I shall him advance. Now, unto my chamber I purpose me this tide, and I charge you, to my precepts, give attendance in any place where ye go or ride. What? Out! Out! Oh, alas! I ween I shall die this day. My heart trembleth and quaketh for fear. My robes I rend a two, for I am in a fray, that my heart will burst asunder even here. Ah! My lord Mahound, I pray thee with heart entire, take my soul into thy holy land, for I feel by my heart I shall die even here. For my legs falter, I may no longer stand.
And here dieth Herod. Yay! So yes, it's Watkin. Watkin again. First soldier makes a report. Second soldier makes a report. Watkin tells him, "Yeah, everybody's cursing your name." Idiot. Idiot boy. At which Herod goes mad and dies. So happy ending there. Happy ending there. Of course, it's not the ending. There's more to come. But no more Herod-y stuff. Sarah, final thoughts on Herod?
Surprised he got that death speech, to be honest.
Would the actor Would the actor allow himself to die without a death speech?
Well,
You know,
true.
if you're cast as Herod and you go, "Oh, he just dies off stage," I'd no.
Yeah, but
Where's
but
my
like
speech?
but like to get such a long speech, you know, normally long speeches they're saved for sort of either sympathetic characters or characters who, I don't know, have just been a bit more. I know evil characters do get speeches, but he hasn't been a particularly complex evil character. I was just surprised at the length of that. And I mean, yeah, it's quite as someone put in the chat, it's quite a U-turn that he does. It's like Watkin just tells him how it is, and he's suddenly like, oh no, maybe I did the wrong thing. What? But I did think I mean, assuming he's having a heart attack there, I did think that was actually quite. You could actually play that if you timed it properly. You could actually do that quite realistically with those lines.
I mean, in terms of the general narrative, it's more that he just sort of dies of horrible, terrible internal disintegration kind of. You know, it's all messy and horrible, and it goes on for ages. But you know, theatre, time, compress.
Yeah, but you could if you wanted to actually like do this play in a more realistic way from what an audience, you could actually make that sort of work, I think.
Yeah. Surely also the implication is that God is striking him down at this
Yeah.
for his many sins. What I find interesting is that he doesn't. He says, "I am in no certain of that young child," but he's not told that the Holy Family escaped. Um, and I'm sort of vaguely recalling that there might be other mystery plays where he learns that they escaped and he just killed all his own people.
Yeah, there are lots of variations on Herod, of which there is a very specific variation, but we haven't got to it yet. So future times, more Herods to come. Helen.
Yeah, I'm not so sure he does, because he says, "Yet I am in no certain of that young child." I think he realizes there is a definite possibility that he's killed all his friends and let his enemy get away.
Nobody loves him.
He's going to go down to the bottom of the garden and eat worms.
Watkin loves him.
Yeah.
Yeah, Watkin wants a knighthood. Watkin's an idiot, though.
Yeah.
All his relationships are transactional. No one really loves him.
Yeah. Eric.
I was just going to contrast this with like the End Town version of this, which was basically what do you call it? That like Herod did not get a death speech, but death appears to sort of with maggots and all that stuff. And this you get this elaborate costume description, if I remember correctly.
Absolutely right. Yes. Herod doesn't get a death speech. Death gets a death speech as he kills Herod. And then a demon gets a death speech about how he's dragging them all to hell and how much he loves his job.
Yeah,
That's right.
Yeah.
yeah.
So yeah, huge. There's lots of variations on the death of Herod. And nobody heard any of that, Eric, because everyone's looking at the cat.
Even I got distracted about the cat. Very pretty cat.
Okay. Any additional thoughts on Herod and the rest of his lovely, lovely court? No. Okay.
Basically, Watkin is Baldric, isn't he?
He's a bit, yeah. Though Baldric's a much nicer chap.
And a bit brighter.
Anyway, we're going to go into the final sequence as we leave this and we go to the purification sequence that closes the play. I think we'll just let this one run through. We have had other variations on this one in other sessions as well, so it'd be interesting to perhaps compare and contrast. Stage directions continue mostly pleasingly in English. So we've had the stage direction, "Here dieth Herod," and Simeon shall say, as he didn't even enter, Simeon's just there, and he's going to say as followeth.
Now, God, that art both lock and key of all goodness and ghostly governance, so give us grace thy laws to obey, that we unto thee do no displeasance. Let thy grace of merciful abundance upon me shine, that called am Simeon, so that I may, without any variance, teach thy people thy laws every one. From the starred heaven, Lord, thou list come down into the closet of a pure virgin, our kind to take for man's salvation. Thy great mercy thou lowliest incline, like as prophets by grace that is divine have prophesied of thee, saith Lorna Fawn. It is fulfilled, I know by their doctrine, and of a chaste maid I wot well thou art born. Now, good Lord, heartily I thee pray, hear my request grounded upon right. Most blessed Lord, let me never die, till that of I of thee may have a sight. Thou art so glorious, so blessed and so bright, that thy presence to me should be great solace. I shall not rest, but pray both night and day and night, till I may behold, O Lord, thy sweet face.
Here shall Our Lady come forth, holding Jesu in her arms, and say this language following to Joseph.
Joseph, my spouse, time it is we go unto the temple to make an offering of our sweet son. The law commandeth so. and 2 young doves with us for to bring into a priest's hands without tarrying. I shall present for an observance our babe so blessed, which is but young. With me to go, I pray you make purveyance.
Most blessed spouse, me list not to feign. Fain would I please you with whole affection. Behold now, wife, here are doves twain, of which ye shall make an oblation with our child of full great devotion. Goeth forth aforn, heartily I you pray, and I shall follow, void of presumption, with true intent, as an old man may.
Here Mary and Joseph go toward the temple with Jesu and 2 doves, and Our Lady saith unto Simeon,
Hail, holy Simeon, full of great virtue! To make an offering I gan myself purvey of my sovereign Son, that is called Jesu, with 2 young doves the law to obey. Toward this temple grace list me convey of God's Son to make a presentation. Wherefore, Simeon, heartily I you pray, into your hands, take mine oblation.
And here shall Simeon receive of Mary Joseph and 2 doves, and hold Jesu in his arms, expounding Nunc Dimittis, etc., saying thus:
Welcome, Lord, excellent of power, and welcome, Maria, with your Son sovereign. Your oblation of whole heart and entire I receive with these doves twain. Welcome, babe. For what joy may I saying, atwain mine arms, now shall I thee embrace. My prayer, Lord, was not made in vain, for now I see thy celestial face.
And here declare Nunc Dimittis.
O blessed Lord, after thy language, in perfect peace now let thy servant rest. For while mine eyne have seen thy visage, and eke thine health through my meek request, of the dark dungeon let the gates breast. Before the face of thine people all, thou hast brought trickle and balm of the best. With sovereign sugar gain all bitter gall. I mean thyself, Lord, gracious and benign, that wouldst come down from thine high glory, poison to repel. Thy mercy doth now shine to change things that are transitory. Thou art the light and the heavenly sky, to the relieving of folk most cruel. Thou hast brought gladness to our oratory, and illumined thy people of Israel.
And here shall Anna, prophetessa, say thus to the virgins:
If you virgins in that ye may or can, with tapers of wax look ye come forth here, and worship this child, very God and man, offered in this temple by his mother dear.
Here virgins, as many as a man will, shall hold tapers in their hands, and the first saith,
As ye command, we shall do our devoir, that Lord to please each one for our party. He maketh unto us so comfortable cheer, that we must needs this babe magnify.
Now, Mary, I shall tell you how I am purposed. To worship his Lord I will go procession, for I see Anna with virgins disposed, meekly as now to your Son's laudation.
Blessed Simeon, with heartly affection, as ye han said, I consent thereto.
In worships of our child with great devotion, about the temple in order let us go.
Ye virgins all, with faithful intent, dispose yourself a song for to sing, to worship this child that is here present, which to madness gladness list bring. In token our hearts with joy doth spring, between mine arms this babe shall be born. Now, ye virgins, to this Lord's praising, singeth Nunc Dimittis, of which I spake aforn.
Here shall Simeon bear Jesu in his arms, going a procession round about the temple, and all this while the virgins sing Nunc Dimittis, and when that is done, Simeon saith,
O Jesu, chief cause of our welfare, in yon taper there be thine thing 3, wax weak and light, which I shall declare to thee approach of thy mortality. Lord, wax betoketh thy humanity, and weak disposeth thy soul most sweet. Yon light I liken to the godhead of thee, brighter than Phoebus for all his fervent heat. Peace and mercy hand set in the here sweet, to slake the sharpness, O Lord of rigour. Very God and man gun together meet in the tabernacle of thy mother's bower. Now shall I exile woe and all anger, and of mankind appease infernal strife. Record of prophets, thou shalt be redemptor, and singular repast of everlasting life. My spirit's joy, and thou art so amiable, I am not weary to look on thy face. Our true intent, let it be acceptable to the honour of thee showed in this place. For thy servants a dwelling thou shalt purchase, brighter than Breigel, other clear crystal, and to worships as chief well of grace. On both my knees now kneel I shall.
Now, Simeon, take me my child that is so bright, chief lodestar of my felicity, and all that longeth to the law of right I shall obey as it light in me.
This, Lord, I take you kneeling on my knee, which shall to blessed folk again restore, and eke be called tun of tranquillity, to give them drink that hands thirsted sore.
And here she receiveth her son, thus saying,
Now is mine offering to an end conveyed, wherefore, Simeon, hence I will wend.
The laws, Mary, full well ye han obeyed, in this temple with heart and mind. Now farewell, Lord, comfort to all mankind. Farewell, Maria and Joseph, on you waiting.
Celestial succor our Son mote you send, and for his high mercy give you his blessing.
and here Mary and Joseph, going from the temple, say,
Husband, I thank you for your gentleness that ye han showed unto me this day, with our child most gracious of goodness. Let us go hence, heartily I you pray.
Oh, go forth afore, my own wife, I say, and I shall come after, still upon this ground. Ye shall find me pleasant at every essay, to cherish you, wife, greatly I am bound.
Now may I be glad in mine inward mind, for I have seen Jesu with my bodily eye, which on a cross shall buy all mankind, slain by Jews at the Mount of Calvary. And through divine grace here I will prophesy of Blessed Mary, how she shall suffer pain when her sweet son shall on a rood die. A sharp sword of sorrow shall cleave her heart to twain. Anna, prophetessa, heartily I pray you now, doth your devour and your diligent labour, and take these virgins ever one with you, and teach them to please God of most honour.
Like as you say, I will do this hour. Ye chaste virgins, with all humility, worship we Jesus that be our Saviour. All at once come on and follow me, and show ye some pleasure as ye can, in the worship of Jesus, our Lady and Saint Anne.
and basically everybody exits at this point, leaving the poet behind.
Honorable sovereigns, thus we conclude our matter we have showed here in your presence, and though our eloquence be but rude, we beseech you all of your patience to pardon our offense. For after the simple cunning that we can, this matter we have showed to your audience in the worship of Our Lady and her mother, Saint Anne. Now of this poor process we make an end, thanking you all of your goodness, of your good attendance. In the next year, as we purposed in our mind, the disputation or the doctors to show in your presence. Wherefore, now ye virgins, ere we go hence, with all your company you goodly advance. Also, ye minstrels, do with your diligence, afore our departing, give us a dance.
So, minstrels play, let's all have a bit of a knees up. Isn't that fun? So next year, everybody, get learning your lines, because we're doing the Christ and the Doctors. So, plenty of notice there. Everyone's looking forward to that one, because that's always a hoot. Yeah, always fun. A very minor point, but I'm really quite liking Mary and Joseph's relationship in this particular play. I think they're mutually supportive in quite a nice way.
They are, and I think that's very important because we've seen men doing the worst possible thing they can do to women. That we've seen men abusing women in this play, and so it's kind of nice that the play ends on this very mutually loving and supportive relationship.
Yeah, Joseph is just not, isn't always concerned about Mary's ass. He's there to be. They're just really nicely mutually, in the sense that Joseph has frequently been a comedy figure, and he really isn't here. There's something really, they're a self-supporting unit, which is really nice. Shall we briefly talk about virgins? Here, virgins, as many as a man will. I don't know whether I've misunderstood.
Thank you for that. Just before I spoke.
Sorry, I couldn't resist. And I'm just going, what does that precisely mean? Because it sounds like there's some resistance to that part, Okay, so you're playing Mary, you're playing the virgins, and is there someone in the audience, in the casting process there, that there's resistance? I don't know. As many people as we can get, I'm assuming what it actually means. But as many singers as we can have for when they reprise the song, because they go through that song a couple of times. So yeah, thoughts in the room about this little sequencette. It's all very much it's part of the continuing narrative, but it's a separate unit from the Herod stuff.
I was very sorry that the people who were discussing on chat how much they wanted to burst into song didn't do so.
Well, there's still time.
Yes, a song Nunc Dimittis would have been nice.
Well, the thing is that if one person sings, it blanks out the speaker's voice. So if we could have sung in the background, I think Alexandra and I would happily have given it a go.
With different tunes that have different words to the words because it's at least the one I was thinking of is an English translation, but it's not the same exact text as we had in the script.
The script is a very nice rendering of the Nunc Dimittis, don't you find?
Yes, I think is the general answer there. No. Other thoughts about this sort of closing? It's a quite a nice little relatively short version of this particular narrative. It didn't offend me in ways that sometimes one has in the same way. Any additional thoughts on this closing section, or for that matter the piece as a whole, as we sort of rattle towards final thoughts?
How long does it take? I mean, I'm thinking about gathering everybody together annually to see the play, like the village pantomime. It's the village play. How long does it take to perform?
Well, a text this long, you might make it, with the singing, you might stretch it to an hour.
Oh, well, that's worth getting together for then.
Yeah. It's probably less than that. It depends how quickly they speak, what the acoustics in the space, the space they're working with is. That would probably slow it down a bit more. It could be shorter. It could only be 45 minutes. But we can assume that there's other stuff going on around it. If the minstrels are there for a bit of a dance, it might be associated with the church ale, so there could be other festivities going on around it. I mean, this is what we do in East Anglia. We hold individual parish festivities, and the play is there to raise money. So this could be part of a wider sort of fundraising event. Alexandra.
Is it also possible that at least part of this would have been either promenade or site specific? Because there's a whole bunch of things in the stage directions that are about going that way. These people stay here while the other people go, going in a procession round about the temple, and so on. So I'm wondering whether there might have taken additional time if it were done, as a follow us around as we take you through the stations of. Well, this isn't the Stations of the Cross, but the same idea.
I mean, it's possible that this production toured. It's not impossible to, sometimes plays do go from parish to parish in a relatively local sense. But broadly speaking, all medieval theatre is site-specific. It's designed for where it's produced. So in that sense, yes, it feels like it's an outdoor event with maybe some scaffolded, some places that are extant around the space. So you might have a Herod station, a temple station. I think it might be the same stage that gets redressed as people wander around via the audience. And wandering via the audience is a big thing. That happens a lot. The audience space becomes part of the performance space frequently. So it's not like you necessarily have entrances. You have entrances when you enter to do something, but you might be there processing around. They might just do a circuit the entire area wherever it is. So yeah.
I also felt that the angel was aloft in some way.
There were hints in the stage directions.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, which does mean that there has to be some sort of structure. I mean, it may just be the front of the church, and there's somewhere in the church that the angel can pop out of.
On the leads, they get the angel up on the leads.
Yeah, shouting like mad from that distance.
I mean, that's the thing when we're talking about how long it is. If this is proper bellowing territory, then this is not going to run quickly, because you have to enunciate every single word, which is where Herod's dialogue comes in very well, because you've got all those lovely sharp consonants to really ping out. Alan?
If it was done as an indoor one in a church, then the angel appearing on the rood screen would be possible, wouldn't it?
It's entirely. I mean, the thing is, we these things can be performed probably anywhere if you think about it. For a bit. I mean, that's the thing. And we don't really know how much indoor this kind of thing got performed indoors in that way. Considering the time of year, I don't know when Our Lady and her mother sing and when that feast day actually is. So,
well, the Annunciation, the Immaculate Conception, which I imagine that from the sound of it is, I think it's first week in December.
So
at the moment, but what it was in medieval times, I don't know.
Yeah.
The first week in December from is a 19th century.
So if it is specifically for a feast day and it's middle of winter, then maybe indoors is a really good idea. But yeah, it is a movable feast. It is whatever the local person decided it was going to be. And we can't have a different answer. I'm going to go around for final thoughts. If you have any thoughts about what we were just talking about there, hold them for when I come to you. I'll go to Alan first. Alan, do you have any final thoughts about this play overall? Say thorny question about what we do with it for performance today. It's the context of doing medieval drama is actually there are places for it. There is a place for this kind of medieval drama today. We might need to adjust the text in certain places, but in a sense, it's less of a pressing question as it is with some of the other plays we've done. But yeah, just how did you find the play?
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting piece. I mean, as Alexandra commented earlier, it's you would need quite a lot of prep to make sure that the semi-comic bits are handled with a sufficiently light touch that you don't get large guffaws from the audience. On the textual side, I think I would like to look again at some of the text. There's a lot of the of ambiguities between thee and thee, which I stumbled across a few times in the bit towards the end.
Oh, we can assume that the text that you've got for this requires considerable more editorial work. So that we can take that as read.
It would need a bit of tidying up, but I don't think there's anything massive that needs excision in the way that we've had with certain other plays that we've dealt with. It doesn't need a massive blue pencil. It just needs some light tidying.
Okay, Sarah, Herod, final thoughts?
Yeah, I don't really have many final thoughts about this play, really. I find it really interesting, the comic inclusion, the Watkin inclusion. I mean, Eric said in the chat right at the beginning something that I was thinking, that Watkin's a really weird name for a character in a biblical drama. but it turned out to be just perfect for him, really, because he was like a character from somewhere else entirely that had just stepped into the wrong play. And I find it really interesting that he's there and that he was put in. So, I mean, that lifts this, or would not necessarily lifts it, but separates it from, I suppose, a lot of these sorts of plays, because he is like something out of a different play, though. It's like, and because he just disappears, obviously, when Herod dies, that's the end of his story, so he's no longer in it. And I find myself thinking, well, what happened to him? Because he's like a clown from a different play, and you would expect him to crop up again near the end and do something. So yeah, quite weird, but in a very interesting way.
Eric, final thoughts?
I was just gonna say that maybe they just shove him off the stage, or something, like sort of go. This is our space now. Yeah, but no. Also, just like the angel, maybe crowd surfing. I know, some sort of way of. No, that's too much comedy. Anyway, I don't know how you would like perform this nowadays, but back then I suppose like it would have had sort of gravitas that other killing the children or slaughter stories have, compared to like nowadays where we're like all gore and violence and stuff. And also finding ass funny is kind of ruined it, I think, a bit. But yeah, I think it's an interesting sort of, if you compare it with other ones like, End Town and the other stuff that we've done, and that we will do, I'm assuming, it's an interesting sort of, like, why would they put Watkins in there? It's like, do you really need the comic relief for it to be as somber as it is?
Well, I think he's asking that question of other Herod slaughtered innocents plays. Maybe we need some light relief. Maybe the light relief makes it worse. Element. I mean, I think the thing about Watkins' name is that he's a medieval chap who's suddenly wandered into this distant past narrative. He's like later clowns, or later plays where they're not really talking about a medieval past. They're really talking about the then society of their time. So I don't know if Watkin quite goes that far, but he does feel like he's a young apprentice or something, or something along those lines. I could be entirely wrong. I'm babbling. Let's stop that now. Lynn, final thoughts.
Yes, I think we're all really interested in this Watkin and the comedy of the Herod Watkin interactions, which of course we are, but that there is a corollary problem or issue or challenge that the way this play is sequenced, we don't see Herod and Watkin at a certain point, and we switch gears to this the scenes in the temple. The sequence in the temple with Simeon and Joseph and Mary, which we have noted before, is really very tender. There's something really sweet about that married relationship, how mutually supportive and respectful they are of each other, and there's something really sincere about Simeon. I mean, there's an earnestness to that whole sequence, which is very different from the sort of the comic and the exaggerated, the mocking, the sort of parody or satire that is going on in the Herod Watkin portions. So getting your audience to switch gears with you is going to be a challenge. That's just something to think about.
Yes. Sorry, I was distracted. I was trying to figure out some feast days, but my God, you get a random selection depending on which branch of Christianity you're going for. Helen, final thoughts?
Yeah. I mean, practically everything that has to be said about Watkin has been said. I can only say that if the play of the Christ meeting the doctors is extant and we're going to do it, then I look forward to meeting up again with Watkin, because quite honestly, I'm not going if there isn't a Watkin. He's too good.
Yes.
Okay. 3 cheers for the child murdering Watkin.
Yeah. But
The
no,
Further adventures off.
Yeah, further adventures of Watkin.
Okay, we'll get round to commissioning that now. Liza, final thoughts.
Yeah, I'm fascinated by the moments of audience interaction, like when the soldiers and Watkin exit before our first scene with the Holy Family. It says, "Here the knights and Watkin walk about the place till Mary and Joseph be conveyed unto Egypt." And I read that as a go harass the audience, or exit through the audience, jostling people and being like, "Do you have any children?" I'd also like to push back against the notion of directing the comedy with a light touch. I think it needs as heavy a hand as possible. There's, in Britain specifically, there's a genre of brutal and bloody comedy, which is sort of like the Tiger Lilies, Shock-Headed Peter. Probably has its roots in Punch and Judy shows, where people love taking their kids to watch puppets beat each other to death. And for me, the Herod and Soldier and Watkin scenes tap into that very much. That the funnier it is, the worse you feel about laughing at it, and that's kind of the point. And you know how you do handle the code switch to the Holy Family scenes and the scenes with Simeon is another question. But I think just leaning into the nature of each scene and maybe not even trying to make them work harmoniously, because maybe the point is they're not harmonious. You know, you have comedy slaughtering of the innocents, and then you have this very solemn, sort of beatific scene with the Nunc Dimittis, which is, I don't know, it's weird and incongruous, but it also has its loveliness.
Yeah,
Beatific is a nice word. I like that.
Yeah, I'd love to see the Tiger Lilies get a hold of this one. If anyone knows some of their back catalogue on religious themes, trust me, it would be a thing. It would be a thing. That's the kind of stuff I don't think I would put in the video because it might shock some people. So yes, we'll go to Alexandra for her final thoughts.
I think I very well may be horribly wrong about this, but if I'm not, it's absolutely brilliant. So I noticed that the way in which this is structured, the scene of the actual slaughter happens basically midway through the play, and all the way up to that point we have so much comedy. There is just so much reason to be enjoying yourself as an audience and to forget what this play was actually about. Especially immediately before that, we have the ass dialogue. Right before those people exit, that's Mary and Joseph, enter soldiers killing children and destroying people's lives, and it's horrible, what am I watching? So if that as you were saying, Liza, if the comedy is actually leaned into and it's constructed in the beginning of the play is constructed in such a way that we are having a lot of fun, then we don't expect the horrible moment, and therefore it hits us more horribly. And then you could construct that and direct it and play it as seriously as possible, and it would be very hard hitting. You then have that kind of that aftermath sort of scenette, and then it's the beatific stuff, and then it's the kind of, you know, wrapping it up with beautiful music and with relief for our guys who made it out and so on. So it's actually a massive emotional journey. Or it you know, it opens up the possibilities for that. I don't know if the same is as easily achievable for a modern audience who does not already have the emotional connections to these characters and these situations. But I think it could be done in a modern context, you know, without expecting any of that. My massive caveat to that would be all the anti-ism, which there is a huge amount of. So I disagree with Alan on how much editing this would need. And I think part of removing the anti-Semitism and the Islamophobia in the play would also remove a lot of the points that make it work as how it works. So I don't know.
Well, that's one for discussion, and a production meeting, I feel. Okay. On that note, I'm going to Helen's just put in the chat. Yes, we've been hunting around for possible days. It could be in the middle of July or the end of July. This Saints' Day. But whether that is precisely this one or not, there's I'm sure someone will be able to tell us. Put it in the comments section. Go on. You know you want to. Go on. We won't respond. But it would be nice. It'll be nice. It'll be lovely. We really care and respond to random passive aggressive abuse from the internet, and so we're always looking forward to what you think, or to ignore at our leisure. I'm just prodding the bear now, aren't I? I'm just poking it with a big stick. Okay, on that note, I'm going to thank all the readers in the room, and I will say, probably belatedly, goodbye.
Bye.
Bye.